All right, what's up, guys? We'll have people, rolling in after. Appreciate you coming. Today's going to be a real basics type of 2026 blueprint type of thing. I brought my one of my business partners here, Blaine. He's with me at Real. Recently put down the flag for us at Team BC out there in Houston, so I'm excited. He's he has a ton of experience in the industry. I know he can really help you guys, and I really want to start bringing other people on as well to share their expertise because we really do have a wealth of knowledge within our team and within our network. And I want to give back to the community as much as possible. So uh, he's a rock star. He's joining me today. I'll start us off real quick with some basic stuff. I'm probably going to go over more scheduling and CRM type of things, and then I know Blaine's going to dive deeper into like systems and processes and that kind of stuff. So get your notes. If you would like a recording, make sure that you let me know via email or ping me somewhere on social media. I'm going to start real quick by giving you guys a free gift. If you haven't done this, make sure you do it. I'll post it in the Zoom. Let me put it in the chat 1 second. And then I have some other stuff for you guys at the end. To everyone, panelists can chat with everyone, attendees can chat with everyone. Okay, cool. Check this out if you haven't done it yet. Take that, grab it, free gift. And then at the end, I got two things that I can share with you guys. So before we begin, Blaine, did you want to say hi or say anything?
Howdy. Thanks for showing up. I can't really see anything. I have my notes in the way, but thanks for having me, Brian.
Of course,
I'm
man.
excited to help and give back to as many people as I can. Hopefully, uh, it's going to be something that they will find useful and haven't heard before, uh, and we'll just see how it goes.
Yeah, I'm sure they will, man. They'll take something from it for sure. Appreciate you guys tuning in. I am going to be rolling out a ton of stuff over the next couple of weeks. I normally do in November and December because a lot of people take time off, but I recently took a lot of my coaching members through like a full business review for 2 weeks, and then we did our business plan last week. And some of the things I wanted to share with you guys is super simple stuff, but I think the theme for a lot of people really has to be getting back to the basics. We're in the era right now where there's so many flashy objects. People are just fighting for attention on Instagram and YouTube. And the little bits that I see of it, because I'm not, as much as I create, I'm not really like in that world like that. It just like, it literally makes me laugh to see the stuff that people are doing. And we've gotten so far away from the things that are traditional business principles, and you see the results. I take a step back and I look at, sales in general in our industry, and it's horrible. I think they said last year. So in 20, I think it was 2023, it was like 49% of agents didn't sell a house. 2024, it was the 70 or 71%. I'd be curious to see this year how many agents don't sell a home because it jumped up 22% over 1 year. I think they projected it was going to be worse this year. So it's probably going to be 75, 80% or something like that. Right. And to me, the essence of the business hasn't changed. It's just people have gotten away from it because we're being pushed all this marketing nonsense instead of the traditional stuff that I came up on and many other people came up on. And it's not to say that AI and technology don't have their role to play because they do, but we really have to make sure that we're doing things in a simple fashion and as efficiently as possible. So I want to share with you guys a little bit about like what I did scheduling wise and just some basic things to keep in mind with your CRM. I'll give you a few tips on kind of how I set it up, and then I'll pass the floor to Blaine. So when it came to scheduling, right, I'll say this: if you're on this webinar right now and you're in the real estate world and you're not, I would say you're not doing at least one or two transactions consistently a month. Like if you're not at least closing regularly, the schedule that I give you right here is probably going to be more for you. And then I can give one for people who are producing a little bit more, right? When I started in the industry, I had a rule, right? I always wanted to be awake at least 2 to 3 hours before I started my workday. So if I started at 8, like I was going to hit the phones at 8, I wanted to be up no later than 6. Now I typically was up by 5 most days, in bed by 9:30, 10 at the latest, so I can get my sleep. But the main thing that I would really recommend for you guys is to make your mornings from when you wake up 5, 6 until 12, make it media free. No news, no social media, nothing digital. If you have to, maybe right before you start your day, give yourself 5 minutes on the email, respond, and that's it. No browsing TikTok, no Instagram. No YouTube, none of that. Because I guarantee you, most of you who are watching this or the recording, the first thing you do when you wake up is this, and you go on your phone, which is a problem. Now, I shared my morning routine recently in like a little clip, like a little condensed version of it. And people were messaging me that, oh my God, like you don't do any social media in the morning? No, I don't. Because the cool thing too is now you can have all that stuff scheduled. So if I make a post, I can schedule it the day before. So make your mornings media free. A couple non-negotiables that I have in the morning, super simple. I get some sort of exercise in, some sort of reading in 30, 45 minutes or an hour, right? Those are non-negotiable for me. The exercise, the reading, and some sort of silent contemplation, meditation, whatever you want to call it, 5 or 10 minutes. In addition to that, I have my 3 to 4 high priority tasks that I need to get done that day. So I'll open up my journal and I'm like, okay, you can take the journaling exercise as far as you want, but at the minimum, what are the 3 to 4 things I need to get done today? And for me, I split it up into 2 categories. One was the main 1 or 2 things I had to do in the morning before 12, and then maybe 1 or 2 things that I had to do later in the afternoon. And everything revolved around that. And that became like my mission for the day. And at the end of the day, I would check in. Did I handle this stuff? And if I didn't, what adjustments do I need to make sure that those things get done? Right? That simple. So that was my morning. You guys can pick and choose. You don't have to do everything that I did, but keep your mornings simple. Now, the reason that's difficult is distraction, and you have to make the adjustments. Like there's been times when I've been with other people or there's other distractions. I have friends visiting or whatever. I still am on my morning routine, but I make the adjustments. So if you know, hey, every morning I take my kids to school from this time to this time, well, you're going to have to work around it. You got to get your stuff done before and then already have everything set up for after, right? I'm not going to allow that to be an excuse. Now, the morning for me, especially for those of you who are real estate, that's money time. Every single one of you, if you're not doing it right now in the morning, has to be prospecting. Like that's something Blaine told me the other day. He's like, hey, let's do this in the afternoon because morning time is money time. I'm going to be on the phones. I'm going to be prospecting. And this dude is a vet in the business. He's not brand new and he still does it. Now I get hit with, well, I don't want to do that, Bryan. I want to, make reels and get, look, I said what I said. If you're not closing at least, 15, 20, 25 deals a year, I wouldn't even think about social media right now. We can create a plan later to help you grow it, but that's not going to be your main method of lead generation because we have 2 categories. We have active lead generation and passive. Social media is passive. You're basically waving around, hey, contact me. I'll help you buy a home. I'll help you sell a home. You're waiting for people to contact you. That's social media. Active is what we're talking about here. You're at an open house. You're making phone calls. You're going door to door. You're actively. And I recommend all of you do that 3 to 4 hours every single morning. Now, if you're not in real estate, what would be your form of lead generation? You have to do that. I did that every morning. My money time was from 8 a.m. to 12 every single day. That was non-negotiable. My vendors knew. I sat everybody down, my vendors, my family, my friends. I said from 8 to 12, I do not exist. Unless you tell me you got in a catastrophic car accident at 10 a.m. and I need to go save you, okay. But other than that, I don't exist. My vendors wouldn't call me. They'd contact my TC or they would text me, hey, I know you're not going to answer right now, but when you're free at 12, give me a call. This client situation came up. Other agents that I'm working with know, my broker knows, everybody knows. It's non-negotiable. But what do? You get on the phones, it's 8:15. Oh, my client's calling me. Hold on. Then you answer, then you do something else. And then before you know it, it's 9:30 and you've only done 15 minutes of prospecting. Or you're like, you know what? I'll do it later. And then something else pops up later and you don't do it. So make that morning time your non-negotiable money time. So from 8 to 12 for me was prospecting. Now, the rest of the day, I kind of had split up into different quadrants. If you're that new agent who doesn't have a lot going on, I would probably take a short break and the follow-up. I know normally we do that afternoon slot for follow-up. If I was you guys, I would split up your follow-up into three sections throughout the day. Whenever I contacted somebody and I generated a lead, I would say, hey, Mr. Client, if I had to call you, right, at a time of day where you 100% would pick up, if I needed to ask you a question, when would that be? Early in the morning before work, lunchtime, or maybe in the evening? And they would tell me, oh, no, for sure, in the morning before work, or hey, lunchtime is the best time, or oh, the evening. I had 3 follow up spots, one little 10 or 15-minute spot right before I got on the phones in the morning, that early slot, one 15 to 20-minute slot right there in lunchtime, right between 12 and 1, and then another one in the evening for the people who said they wanted me to call them in the evening. That's how I split it up. So you do that follow up sesh right there. Now in that 12:30, 1 p.m. to 5, 6 p.m., you have a big block there. What I'd recommend you do is throw in an additional hour right there of scripting and role play, right? Maybe throw in another 30 minutes or hour of admin or educational stuff, studying your market, right? And then in the evening, right, 3 to 6 p.m. or 7 p.m., however long you work, leave that slot for either appointments or more prospecting. And that was literally the schedule that I had for the first 2 or 3 years. That took me from 13 deals to 29 and then 39. I did that, 1, 2, and then year 3. And by year 3, I was already rocking and rolling, starting to build my team. Now, the best thing about that is it's extremely profitable and it's extremely simple. Now, this is the key, guys. This isn't sexy. This isn't going to get you clicks and likes or admiration from people, but it's going to get you trophies and sales, which is what you want. Well, maybe not the trophies, but you want the sales. Now, as simple as that is, that's literally the schedule that I followed. No ifs, ands, or buts. And I have yet really to meet many people in the industry besides top producers who follow a schedule like that. And if anything, if you keep that one piece of information that I told you, the money time being in the morning, that is it. The check is the trophy. Exactly. Good call, Christian. That's exactly what it is. Now, if you're a higher producer, we can mess around a little bit. Maybe you could knock that prospecting time down a little bit to 2 or 3 hours, and then we could fit in some stuff in the afternoon, with social media and other things. Maybe doing some interviews or, doing events and that type of stuff, but it's not going to be too much of a change. We're still going to get your money time in the morning, and then we're going to do your appointments and all the other stuff in the afternoon, because as you get more productive, you're likely going to be going on appointments a lot more frequently, and you're going to need that afternoon slot for specifically going on listing appointments or maybe showing a buyer if you don't have a buyer's agent yet, right? And the reason I'm bringing that up is as simple as that sounds. Again, when I talk to people now, most agents are telling me they're getting out of bed at 9 or 10 a.m. Or yeah, I wake up at 9 and then I go to the gym at 10 or 11. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? You have 0 deals on the board and you're waking up almost at noon. What's going on? I would see this too when I'd go door to door. I'd knock and I'd see a realtor in their, flip flops and their robe at like 11 a.m. I'm like, dude, what are you doing home? Oh, this is my neighborhood. You're not going to take over my neighborhood? Yeah, sure, buddy. Right? Pretty funny. So that's the schedule. Right now, let's talk CRM. The CRM for me is where a lot of people really have misunderstandings and they don't apply the basic stuff. Like we talked about this on my team call yesterday, and I'm bringing this up frequently with people. I'll give you a little bit of kind of how I do it, but you basically have to come up with a system that takes the thinking out of it. At the minimum, you need to have two to 3 groups designated in your database from like closer acquaintances and clients that you've worked with and people who know you on a one-on-one, like close basis. And then maybe another category for, people that you've met networking, or there's a connection there, but it's a little bit more loose, right? And there needs to be some sort of automated and thinking taken out of it type of touch, right? So when I had my old dialer, before I had any fancy CRM, all I did was I created a folder and then I did the math to know how many people I needed to contact. So for my A team, as an example, those are the people that I contact once a month. I make sure to have a live conversation with them or a phone call once a month. All I did was I took that number and then divided it by the work days. So if I had 100 people on that A team and there's 20 work days in a month, 4 weeks, 5 days a week, I just divided 100 by 20. It's 5 people a day. So I knew, hey, every day I make my calls, I need to talk to 5 people from my A team. So I load them in the dialer, 5 numbers, call, end it. By the time I cycle through that list at the end of the month, I'm back to that first one the following month. So I took the thinking out of it. Then the emails, I did a weekly email to everybody at every level of my database. I set them up, I had the templates, and then every week on a Sunday, I would send out my emails automatically. Took the thinking out of it. And there's a million softwares that'll do that for you, right? I'm sure all of you use different CRMs and different softwares. Once I started making money, I started doing a monthly postcard to my database, right? A team branded basic postcard once a month. Boom, boom, boom. In addition to that, and this is something all of you need to add, I started doing this twice a year, but initially, year one, I did it once. I did a sphere of influence event for my database. I invited them. I did a big, big event. I had my vendors come. It was cool. And every time I had a different theme. One was at the park, one was at a restaurant, right? The other one was at one of my lender's offices, and we kind of dressed it up and made it a cool event for all the family and kids. And that database to this day keeps feeding me deals. I even have people on my coaching right now that are doing very good 200, 300, 500K in commission, and they're still not working their database, or they're not working their database as efficiently as they could. Because the only other piece to this is making sure that you're adding quality contacts to your database frequently. This is why you guys have to be out there interviewing local small and medium sized businesses, getting your face and name out there, connecting with people. I make it a point to be out there at least a couple days a week meeting people in the real estate world and in the business world, because I want those contacts not just on my social media but also in my database. I'm also meeting a lot of people who own local businesses and featuring them, because then I build a local reputation. But these are all the people that I'm building and adding to my database. So when I do the events, they show up, but I have a lot of support, right? And I'm getting a lot of business from people because that list is growing to 300, 500, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. And that's what you want. I just think people don't really make this a point of contention because they're so busy worried about the next check or chasing the next deal. I want to invite you to shift your mindset from just right now today to what is my business going to look like in 6 months or a year or 2 years? What do I need to do today and on a daily basis to have that built out over the next 6 months or year? And I think for 2026, that's the shift, because a lot of people right now are concerned. Market disruptors, interest rates, AI, technology, realtor.com, Zillow. How do you protect yourself? Well, there's many ways that you can protect yourself from market disruptors. And one of them is to have a great connection with a lot of people in your database. If you have a personal, professional relationship with 500 people, 1,000 people, 2,000 people who know you, like you, and trust you in regards to real estate, you'll make money hand over fist. But you got to build that list and you got to work it. That's the key. By the time I exited real estate after year 3, I had at that time, I think about 1,500 people in my database. And it kept growing after that because I allowed my team to grow it and for them to take over. I think right now it's around 32 or 3,300 people in our database. And that still gives us deals all the time. I can't imagine what it would be if it was just me still working that database, but we still get referrals nationwide all the time. Is there options for them to go to another realtor? Sure. Are there cheaper options? Sure. Are there more convenient options? Sure. But they like me and they like Team BC, and that's why they're going to work with us. And if you get 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 deals a year from that, isn't that what you want? You won't have to chase expires and call them at 7 in the morning like I did, or door knock them at 6:30 in the morning and get told to go fuck yourself. I'm sure all of you don't want to do that forever, right? That's how you get out of it. Again, any top producer I've talked to, 50, 75, 100, 200 deals a year, 30, 40, 50, 60%, 70% of their deals come from their database. So I just really want to make that point because, again, none of this is new per se. It's just you have to really make sure that you emphasize and get back to that, because I think there's too many bells and whistles out there right now, and everyone's, trying to fucking dance on TikTok and get famous, and there's very little discussion and masterminding and implementation of the basic stuff. Because even if I gave somebody my old platforms, Instagram and YouTube, and got them all that attention, well, if they don't have processes, they don't have systems, and they don't know how to sell and close, they're not going to make any money. I've talked to so many agents who message me who have 50, 100, 500,000 on Instagram, and they're like, dude, I share with them like what I'm doing and how much money I made. They're like, how are you doing that? I'm like, bro, you can't close. You can't sell. You have no skills. You know how to get attention, which is great, but you have no skills. You don't know how to do a video. You don't know how to do a call to action. You can't convert. You don't know what to say, how to say it. You don't have systems on the back end to track your leads. You have no idea what you're doing. You're not an entrepreneur. You're an influencer. That's what I call them, right? That's why I hate that word when people try to call me an influencer. I do it. I'm not an influencer. All right? I'm a creator. Call me that, please, not an influencer. But cool. Like, we're gonna do a Q&A, and I'll maybe add a little bit, but I want to pass it to Blaine. I know he's got a lot to share, and I really value his input. So Blaine, let's
Well,
hear it, my friend.
Wow, that was awesome. I don't know how I'm going to do following up to that because that was actually a lot of great information, and you actually said a few things that I actually was planning on touching on, and really what I want to talk about is building those systems and processes. You said take the thinking out of it. We are faced with making so many decisions and having so many things thrown at us. That decision fatigue is insane. I know that after making so many decisions throughout the day, the last thing I want to even think about is what am I going to have for dinner? It's one of the things I always talk about with my daughter, and I would talk about with my ex-girlfriend is, look, I will make decisions all day long and we'll decide whatever we're doing. But at the end of the day, when it comes to just choosing food, just pick something. I don't care, because by that time I am just worn out on making decisions. And really, in your business, and I know every one of you have heard this, you are a business. And you need to treat your real estate business as that, not as a job, as a business. And all successful businesses are built on systems and processes. And that's what makes them scalable. And so the systems and processes will allow you to do everything consistently the same, which is key. 85, 90% of what is going to make you successful and make you money is boring shit. The boring shit is where the secret is because everyone wants to be excited and pumped up and have all this excitement in their life. If you can stick through and grind through the boring shit, and sorry, I've said that so many times, uh, you will be able to be successful and you will go miles further than anyone else. Systems and processes, like I mentioned, they'll allow you to scale. They'll free up your time too, because eventually you'll be able to assign those tasks that don't make you money to someone else, and when you do those systems and processes, everything you're doing right now, you should be documenting how you do it, and it should be a checklist. I mean, everything. And so that way, when you do hire someone for those positions, it makes training them so much easier because all they have to do is refer back to the documentation. You just do your initial walkthrough of everything, say, here you go, and they can take the baton and keep going. So document everything. And again, those systems and processes will also help eliminate all the decision fatigue that you're going to end up getting. It's like Bryan said, it will take the thinking out of it. You don't have to make a decision because if you have a system and process for everything, you just go down the process. You don't have to think about it. It is all exactly the same. And it doesn't even have to be just necessarily in dealing with specific in real estate. It can be everything. And it all depends on how deep you want to take it. Just as an example, if I have an appointment or I am recording a video, I am wearing an ugly ass orange polo. What do you see me wearing now? An ugly ass orange polo. And you don't have to wear the same one every single day, but I have like five of these. You know, you could even have like five different shirts. You have your Monday clothes, your Tuesday clothes, Wednesday clothes, Thursday clothes. You just know that it's Monday, this what I'm wearing. You don't have to take it to that extreme, but if you eliminate as much fatigue as possible or eliminate as much decisions as possible, you're going to eliminate a lot of that fatigue and you're going to eliminate having to think about bullshit you don't want to waste your time with. Um, so every morning I get up and I prospect the same. I prepare the same, just like a morning routine. I'm not saying you have to get up at 5 or 5:30, but it helps. I get up every morning. I get my data, my phone, my my prospecting sheet. I get everything together. It's all done in the same order, the same process, or whatever. And I always start dialing at 8. Keep going. It's always the same. My mornings are locked in. Like Bryan said, part of my process is I switched my phone to automatically kick on to do not disturb so that anyone calls, I don't hear it because it is my prospecting time. In between those hours of 8 to 11, my phone automatically kicks to do not disturb and nobody gets through, period, for anything. Uh, I automated that so it's part of the process so I don't have to think about it. I don't have to stop and go, let me put my phone on do not disturb. Now, if I wanted to keep that as part of my process, I could. I did until I figured out how to automate doing the do not disturb feature. So, but all my prospecting done the same way. And eventually all the conversations are going to be the same. It gets boring and tedious, to be honest with you, but that's where the money is. That's where all it goes. And then in the afternoon, I have things wide and clear for some flexibility so that if I do have an appointment, great, I have time to do the appointment. I have time to get the CMA or the packet together for my presentation or whatever the case may be. So there's open in the afternoon, but I have a process for something I do. So if I have an appointment in the afternoon, I follow the same process for running comps, for getting the packet together, for getting the folder together, and all that other stuff. For my soft confirmation of the appointment, it's the same for everyone, done at the same time for everyone. My hard confirmation, if I didn't get a response from the soft confirmation, is done the same. Exactly the same because it's all part of my process. Uh, Buyer consultations, all the same. The conversations are always all the same. That's it. They sometimes it might be in different order. You have to have that little bit of flexibility, but eventually all their questions are going to be the same. All your questions are going to be the same. Hey, what area do you want to live in? Okay, why that area? What are you looking for? All that. It's always the same. The money is in that boring shit. So you've got to learn to love it one way or another, you know, so that you could get to where you want to go. And goals are fantastic. Don't get me wrong. I love me a goal, but really the ideal thing, what you really need to focus on is your system and processes and doing of the things that get you to the goal. Your focus should be on developing the processes and systems that will be the easiest way to get to where you want to go. Your destination is great, but you have to have the route. Uh, I talk about documentation. You're gonna have to have it in like a Word format or some kind of paper documentation, and that's fantastic. I definitely recommend putting it in a CRM and working it out so that it kicks off in different stages, because that's what I have done. I have taken it to that level. But even though I have added that to it, I still keep it simple. Simple scales, fancy fells. So you got to find that sweet spot of having your process, but not make it too complicated. Okay. But the benefit of leveraging your CRM in this is that you can automate some of those tasks as well. My soft confirmation, it's 99% automated. I just open up the template, change the time, and send it. That's it. So, for example, I use my CRM to do my checklist at various stages. If it's a pre-listing, I run the pre-listing thing. It comes up with the checklist, go down it. Make sure I touch every single box in there and get it done. I'm taking the thinking out of it as much as possible by making a system and a process. Uh, if in a transaction we're under contract, the title company sends the title commitment. I have a video that I created in advance. I spent some time. It's part of my process for doing the creative stuff. I created a bomb video. I email my video about explaining the title commitment in like a minute. Hey, this is what Schedule A is. This is what Schedule B is. This is what Schedule C is. And this is what Schedule D is. If you have any questions, you're welcome to reach out to me. I'm here for you. Or you can reach out to the title company as well. They can explain it. So whatever. I have it all as part of my process, and just about everything in your business should be a process. not necessarily something you even run through your CRM because it's not necessarily related to how you're dealing with your clients or a transaction. My financial system on how I am handling my money is a system. I have my bank account set up, income comes in, it sits in that one account, and once or twice a month, I go and I distribute it how I need it distributed, and my bills are paid. My credit card runs and pays things that have different time level, and then I just pay the credit card the one time a month. I automate it all as much as possible. Aside from not having any systems on how you conduct your business, not having a system and sticking to it on how you handle your money is how you are going to fall flat on your ass and be out of this business like 90% of the realtors are in 2 years. Because you can make a lot of money in this business, but if you don't have a system on how you handle it, then it won't work. You will be on that roller coaster, stressing on money, trying to get advances from e-commission or whatever, and paying them like they're a loan shark, and lose and trapped in an endless cycle of paying those people, and you'll be stuck. I highly suggest getting a financial system in place as well, because that will help you in the long run. If you need a system in place, one I could probably recommend. Can I recommend something, Bryan? Is that cool?
Yeah.
So there's two books. They're essentially the same thing. There is Profit First, which is the original, which covers business in general, and Profit First for real estate agents, which is real estate specific. This one is probably better because it's directed to real estate agents. It's like 23 bucks on Amazon. It's a super fantastic book. It will help you not have to think about how to develop the system. It just gives you one and you implement it. So that takes decision fatigue out of it because it guides you through the process. Even if you don't do this, find something that works for you. If you're someone who is married and has a spouse that helps, fantastic. If you're like me, where you're out on an island by yourself, no friends, no family, no spouse, you got to have a system in place, or you're going to be living in a small box underneath an overpass. And I know none of us wants that. So get a system in place for that as well. And that really kind of covers it. I mean, I don't have much to add aside from that, unless there's a specific question. But following those systems and processes and developing a system and process on how you handle everything can take can take a lot of things off your plate of having to think about, and you'll know how to deal with things as they come up. If I have an issue with an appraisal coming in short, I have a system for that. I get a copy of the appraisal. I reach out to the lender, work on the process of disputing the appraisal if I can. It just you just develop the process. And if you can create the checklist and add the checklist to your CRM so you can have it in there and work through it with each transaction, and it keeps a record of what you're doing, it's easy for you. And if you have other people you're working with, say you're on a team, to see where you're at.
Yeah, man, those are great points, dude. And with the money thing, spot on, man. I made so many mistakes when it came to money. And like, that's why when I created and built everything that I built out, like on my coaching, right? When somebody joins, one of the first things that I teach them is financial management and the introductory modules, because it's so important. I lost my ass in the beginning because I was foolish with my money. And even later on, when I got deplatformed and I went from making like 1.6 million to like 2 or 300K like this, had I not set myself up financially, I would have been screwed. You know what I mean? That was a tough blow. But I'm so glad that, I did the right things. And if I could recommend something else, another great book you guys can read that will give you some basics, and it really will help you with a lot of the mindset aspects of money. It's called The Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker. Great book. I did the event. It was kind of crazy because at the event, they pitch you every fucking 5 minutes to get you to sign up for their thing. But the principles in the event are still really good. And that was a pivotal point for me, because prior to that, I was the type of person that, even though I was making money already in big checks and this and that, I was still like afraid to look at my bank account and almost insecure about finances. And that really was a pivotal point for me because it switched. Like I really started taking responsibility, learning, and that's when everything changed for me financially and business wise too. But I really exposed a major flaw. And I think a lot of people, without realizing it, because of issues like that, you're limiting yourself. Many people won't even work hard or really go after it because they're like, dude, if I start making money, what am I going to do with it? Right. I have no idea. I have no education about money. I have no financial discipline. And it's crazy, and if you allow that to sabotage you, it can really take the wind out of your sails. So I'm glad that I learned that lesson early on. And I've been able to pass that on to other people, man, because that's a big one. You can go
And
from being a nobody to making big money in real estate. But if you squander it all, then what was the point? And you're back in the same position, if not worse, because now you're not making money, but you're in major debt.
oh, and one of the things, it's funny you mentioned about, you didn't want to look at your bank account, right? I avoided looking at my bank account forever. In fact, I was paying, I call it laziness tax. I was paying for QuickBooks for like 2 years, never logged in. Never logged in, never did anything. I just was eyeballing my account every once in a while just to see how much money I had in there. And that's not a financial management system, right? At all.
Yeah.
And it really was because I was in such bad shape. Just to be transparent here, I was in such bad shape. I was being a
Mhm.
coward, chicken shit
Yep.
about looking at my account because I was afraid of what it would expose. And what it was exposing by looking at that and seeing it where it was at was that I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing you know? And one of the things that people have issues with and why, they'll have a windfall because they'll do a closing, they'll blow the money, right? And then have nothing and they're stressing out and they're on the roller coaster ride, right? Of having money and being euphoric and then, oh shit, the world's gonna end. What am I gonna do? I'm gonna jump off a bridge type stuff.
Yep.
Having a system in place and you're just working the system, it levels it out. You will have highs and lows, but especially having a financial system in place, it helps soften the blow of what's going on.
100%, man. Very early on in my career, I closed a couple of deals. I must have made in a span of like 2 weeks, I made like 30, 40 grand. And of course, I was like, I'm feeling myself. I'm like, I'm the shit. This is easy, right? Like, I'm working hard. Don't get me wrong, but I'm like, I got it figured out. Then I hit a dry spell where I didn't close anything for like 3 months, right? But of course, dumb me, bought a car, did all this stuff, and I was like, oh my God. So I'm sweating bullets, right? Like my expenses aren't that high, but it's creeping up on me. I'm afraid to look at my bank account. And then when I do, I'm like, what the hell? Where did all the money go? But I had
Yeah.
given money to my parents and oh, I did this, I did that. And then before you know it, I had 35K in my bank account. Now I'm down to like six. I'm like, where the hell did $30,000 go? Right. And again, not thinking about taxes and all the other stuff. So I'm glad I learned that lesson, dude. But yeah, it's not a
Oh,
good position to
taxes.
be in
That's
because that crash, that low is fucking low.
taxes. That's a huge,
Mhm.
huge little guillotine that will separate someone's head from their body, just by not having a financial system because owing the IRS is horrible because they just want their money and they will do whatever it takes. But, I remember there was one point in my career, and this was probably back in around uh, 2017. I had just really started phasing out my IT business that I was doing well in, made it crazy. I mean, in like a year, I went from making nothing to I was making double six figures with that business, and I just got burnt out. And so I started focusing on real estate full time, but I didn't have my systems and stuff in place at all at that
Mm.
point. So I had like six transactions that were set to close like 6 or 7 months in advance, like new builds and stuff like that. And so I ended up, so I could pay child support because you don't want those people after you in Texas either. They'll throw your ass in jail.
Yeah.
So I was actually working part-time in CarMax. I wasn't doing car sales. I was actually working in the buyers section where we bought the cars, but I was more like a buyer's assistant. So I was moving the cars, helping with the auction and stuff like
Mm.
that.
Yeah.
And so I would be in the car driving in the back, doing real estate deals, texting and working them all at the same time, trying to get it done. But and the worst part was
Uh,
cars that were there for the auction, and this is unrelated. This is just to share the experience since you guys have. So these cars for auction would have like dirty diapers, old food, people who had smoked tons of dope in them, and it's all baking in the sun, right? Well, you're crawling in these cars sometimes to get in them or driving them around, and there's just all kinds of junk in there. And so it was a horrible experience. And I had to do that for like 6 months waiting for these deals to close. And they all closed in the span of the same 2 months. So I was back in that windfall. And that's when I realized I really need to get my shit together and get a
yeah,
system in place.
yeah,
I was tired of that roller
yeah.
coaster ride.
Yes, for 6 months you were riding dirty, literally.
Literally, man, it was nasty. And yeah, it
Uh,
was awful.
that's
But
funny.
anyways,
Cool. All right, the Q&A button's there, guys. If you have any questions, we'll obviously stay on. A couple other things I told you at the end. I had some stuff. Look, Blaine and I obviously work together at Team BC. We're together at Real. I'm going to drop a link. If you guys want to schedule a call, you can talk to me or both of us personally about Real, the team, coaching, or anything like that. That would be your link to set that up. And then this is kind of a shameless plug. I'm doing an event next week, a 2-day event on follow up, where we do theory the first day, and then the second day we're all going to get on the phone live together and we're going to do some follow up. I'm doing that event next week as well. There's a link for that if you want more information. Make sure you guys save those links because obviously when we shut down Zoom, they'll be gone. But yeah, I'll leave it open right now for Q&A. If you guys have any questions, there's a Q&A button. You can put in your question and then I can pin it. I'll stay on for another couple minutes to see if you guys have questions. Otherwise, you're free to go.
yeah, while we're sitting here waiting, one thing I want to add is no matter how long you've been in this business, it, get some coaching. I don't care how awesome you're doing, get some coaching. I'm not a coach, mind you, at all. I don't sell it, I don't do it, none of that. I mean, I mentor people that I'm working with at Real, but get some coaching. Get to that next level. All the professionals, you know, think about it. They have multiple coaches in their career.
Yep.
Definitely need some coaching. Find someone that works for you that has the same that works and is focused on something you need to develop and give them some money. It'll definitely be worth it. It should return. Now, you do have to be wary because someone does 5 deals in 1 year and they think they're a real estate coach. Do your due diligence. You know, Not everyone has done like Bryan, and done some stuff. But anyways, I just wanted to
No,
add
no,
that.
you're right, man. I mean, even a lot of people in my program are a part of probably 3 or 4 or 5 different coaching programs, and a lot of those people are doing really well. So it's true. Same thing. Like when I was in sports, I had a strength and conditioning coach, I had a basketball coach, I had a skills coach. At one point, I think I had like 5 coaches when I was playing professionally, all within the realm of physicality and basketball. And I've never. That's why, like when I got into real estate, that was my first question. I need a coach before anybody even told me, right? But I think for a lot of people, they struggle with that one because of the grifters, of course, like you said. But the other part is, I think a lot of people maybe never were in like competitive sports, or like maybe that they just don't make that connection. Like, oh, I need one. It's more like, they think it's like a luxury or something like that. But like when I stepped into the business world in real estate, I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. How foolish would I be to try to tackle this thing myself and be like, oh yeah, I'll figure it out, when you look at the statistics? Because even when I got in, the failure rate was like 80% or 85% of agents are out within the first like year or two. I was like, there's no way I'm going to figure this out on my own. It's not like my family was in real estate and my dad's a top salesperson. They all had regular jobs. You know what I mean? Like I'm the first one in my family now to have been a millionaire and do all this stuff. So much so, dude, I don't know if I've told you, a lot of my family in South America, bro, they think I'm like selling drugs. Like they don't think I'm a legit business person. They're like, there's no way this kid makes money, right? Because in their mind, you either make it in sports or you're like in politics. That's the only way to make money. If not, you ain't legit. You're doing something crooked.
So did they start thinking about the drugs as the option when you started getting the tattoos, or was it before the tattoos?
Oh, before, before,
Oh, okay.
before. Yeah, yeah. They would hear my parents' stories like, no way he's doing that, right? It's pretty funny. All right, let's get some questions, and we can ping pong on these. So I'll present this to you first, Blaine, and then I'll hit it. Will asks, how do I track my numbers to figure out conversion rates, and what are some CRMs that are user friendly?
Oh, awesome question. So I actually have next to me because my messy desk. Sorry, I'm gonna find a blank copy here for you because I have notes that I can't share. So I use actually what I call my A plus day. My plus day tracker. And so this is how I track actually my contacts, my leads. I know, I'm sorry, it can't come through very clearly, but I track my contacts, my leads, my appointments set, my appointments met, the listing buyer agreement signed, offers accepted, and what's sold. And then I have like for my prospecting, I have little boxes that check. So I'm sure because it's part of my process, I call fresh expires 3 times, and then I do the stale ones, and then I call old ones, and then there's for sell by owners and for rent by owners. I mean, I don't call for sell by owners because screw those guys. And so each one has points. And so, like a contact is 2 points, a lead is three, an appointment set is four, and then an appointment met is 20, and then a signed listing agreement or a signed buyer's representation agreement is 25 points. And then if an offer is accepted, that's 25 points. I get no points for a closing or anything like that because it's about doing the process, not the end goal.
Hmm.
And so I try to get 100 points a day for an A plus day, and there's grades. So like 59 or below needs to work, it's an F. You know, 100 or more is A plus, and nothing rolls over. It's every day by the end of the day. Some days I failed miserably, some days I had an A day. So I track the numbers when I'm calling, or if I talk to someone because it's one sheet per day. And so what you have to do though is you have to give it like 90 days to see what your conversion rate is. Because I actually take all of this and put it into a spreadsheet, and it calculates everything for me and tells me this
Yep.
many contacts leads to this many appointments. And I figure it out, or it figures it out for me because I can't do all that math. I'm in real estate you know uh so I do it that way. And there's some like base conversions, and I'd have to find it. I don't think I have it in front of me, but it's like you should be averaging like 7 contacts an hour minimum. My contacts, I'm averaging, it depends, but it's anywhere from 8 to 11 depending on the month and how deep and how well my contacts are going for that month. Because some months it's horrible, but it's all about the averages. And you just have to figure that out and do the data, and then you can convert it. And you can always work on improving it because if you're getting 4 contacts an hour, then you know that's where your system is broken. Maybe you need a dialer. Maybe you need better data that you're calling. But say you're doing 11 or 8 contacts an hour and you're getting no leads or 1 or 2 leads, then you know you need to work on your phone skills. And say you're doing great and you're getting leads and you're getting appointments, but when you meet them, you're not getting the listing. If the conversion is not matching, that's where you need to work. You should measure that stuff and then fix it. What was the second question about the CRM?
CRM that is user friendly.
Oh, it depends. It depends on what you need. Some people I know who are millionaire producers are using Excel spreadsheets. I don't know how they function, but they use it. They use Excel, and some use a paper system. Like I know a lot of people in a coaching system I was in, they use like paper accordion folders and papers with records, and they're writing notes. Screw that. I like it all in the CRM because it's portable. I can use it on my phone or whatever. I use Lofty because I get that from Real. I used to pay the $500 a month until I joined Real, and now I pay 50.
Yeah.
And I have all the same functionality. I didn't lose any of my data. I didn't have to recreate any of my smart plans. So I like Lofty. I think KV Core is called Bold Trail. No, I don't like that one. Not for me. I'm sure there's some people who love it. Don't know who those people are. probably don't hang out in the same places. But you're just going to have to find one that works for you, that does what you want to do. But here's the secret. They almost all do the same thing. It's just a matter of one you like using. Everyone has their own opinion about what's user friendly for them. I love Lofty, but I have also, when I set it up, I spent the time to actually set it up how I need to work with how my mind works, which is like a bag of cats. But I got it set up. Sorry. Do you have something
Yeah.
to add to
No, I
what
mean
I said
it's
on
great,
here?
man, and what you brought up is it confirms what you said earlier. When you join the right coaching program, you're going to give this given to you on a silver platter, right? Like I build this out for people, but it's true. So in the beginning, Will, and I'll give you my input. Blaine answered it fantastically. Funny that he brought up the top producers. I used to use the Excel spreadsheet too because I couldn't afford a CRM when I started, but I was meticulous about it. Now, with the conversion rate, he hit the nail on the head. You got to track your numbers and then figure out what your conversion rate is. So if in that 3 month period you make 600 contacts, you generated 60 leads, and you set 40 appointments, then you have to divide that number, and you'll know, okay, I make X amount of contacts every 80 contacts, I get an appointment. Right. Then you have something that you measured, and then now you can track that and you can improve it. And now over the next year, let's get that down. Let's improve your skill set. Let's improve the lead sources that you're going after. And let's get that down from 80 to 60 or 80 to 50 contacts. That way now you're more efficient. Yeah, go ahead, Blaine.
Hey, I just want to throw this because while you were talking, sorry, I looked and found I shared it with someone the other day that I prospect with, of like the base conversion that you can start from. And then from there, while you're tracking your stuff, I mean, this would be useful to you guys, right? If you want it, I'll tell you, but you got
Sure,
to say
sure.
it in
Yeah,
in the chat.
sure.
Uh, but it'll give you a place to start with. And so, uh, you know where to start. So I know if the base average for the industry is like 7 an hour for people who prospect and stuff, but I'm doing 11, I know I'm doing pretty well there with my data source and my dialer. And if my conversion rate is better than 10% of the seven, then I know I'm doing good. So what I'll do is, so contacts per hour should be about seven to start with. The number of contacts to get a lead, it should be 10% of that, right? And so then the leads to an appointment set should be 25% of that. And then appointment set to actually meeting should be about 70% of those should actually turn into meetings. I have people cancel on me too. This is where the appointment set to appointment met is something that I had to work on really, really hard because I could get the appointment set, but when I got off the phone with them, they were not comfortable enough with me. They got cold feet and went another direction and would either cancel or ghost me. And so from appointment met to listing taken needs to be about 35% of those as a base level average. If you're hitting at least that 35%, you're doing okay. I mean, obviously, you can do better. There's people who do better, but that should be your base. And then the number of listings that you take, so you have the actual listing to getting sold, it should be about 80% of those. So, if you're taking your listings and you're not selling at least 80% of them, then you know that what you're doing to get the home sold isn't working, whether it's price or how you're marketing or the aggressive effort you're making besides putting a sign in the yard, you're failing. Anyways, that's the base. Sorry.
Yep. Solid. All right. Next question. Thank you for sharing, Blaine. How much would you suggest to put aside for taxes per deal?
Depends on, I mean, that's a moving thing, right?
Yep.
So and it also depends on how much money you're bringing in and where you're at in the industry. I would say if you can do 25%, I would move 25% aside because that's going to do you the best. Because you're going to have to pay quarterly to Uncle Sam, and at the end of the day, you may get some of that back, but you're not. So they'll base those quarterly payments off of what you've actually done 1 year. So, but I would probably say do 20, 25% just to be safe. If you're struggling to make ends meet, I would skew lower to 20%. I am not a tax advisor. I'm not a CPA, but that's what I would do.
Yeah, it just depends on the state that you're in. When I was in California, I was probably putting aside 30, 35%. And then when I really started making money, that's when I really learned about taxes and, having everything set up properly to really save money. That was one of the many reasons that I moved to Florida, right, to save money on taxes. But yeah, I think 25 is a good safe bet. I think you should be good with that, Ginter, because you're in Florida.
Oh yeah, if you're in
If you guys are
Florida,
making 100,000, 150,000, anywhere near that or more, like you really need to make sure you get a good accountant or a tax guy, right? That's like
what
the biggest thing I'd recommend.
so what I would probably recommend on that financial end, and this is what I do. So no matter how much I'm making, I I take about 6,000. I don't take more than that, you know, and some of that's business expenses. Okay, I actually just my what we'll call my biweekly pay is consistently the industry standard because the rest of it, when I finish migrating into an LLC, and the reason why I did this even before the LLC is so that I would be used to the process and have it the same. But so I take my draw or I take my pay and then any extra that I want for me beyond that, I take as a distribution because that's taxed lower than pay. And so talk to a CPA. I'm not a CPA, but you can do strategies like that because the IRS, from my understanding, not a CPA, is you have to make a reasonable income from it. You're not Elon Musk where you can charge a dollar and or your pay's a dollar and you get the rest in stock dividends. You have to have a reasonable pay. And I think for real estate, I think the CPA said it's like 45 or 50 grand, right? I would just say a good rule of thumb is whatever the average is for the year for the industry, take that as your pay and the rest of it take as a distribution. So it's taxed at a lower level. That's just my opinion. You do what's best for you. Talk to a CPA.
Cool. Let me drop those links again for you guys. And then, do you have any other questions, comments, concerns, confessions, complaints, anything? You guys want to set up a call? There's that link, and then I'll give you the link again for the follow up event. Otherwise,
Because
we will wrap up. I got to get you on again, Blaine. Man, you're a beast, dude. This is easy for you.
man, I have unfortunately my wife didn't like my opinions on everything, but I do have an opinion just about everything. I've been doing this for a minute. I got licensed in 2007. And I dabbled honestly for the first few years because I had my IT business, but around 2015, I decided I was just going all in on real estate. Started phasing out my IT clients.
All right, here's another question. I'll start with this one. What are your thoughts on this? Should I take business if it's 1+ hour away from my home, if the commission is worth it, or should I just focus heavily within 20 to 30 minute radius? What's most effective? Okay, great question, Will. Look, have I traveled more than an hour for a listing? Sure, I have, because then I'll take the lockbox, I'll have it ready, da 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 da, and I rarely have to go back out. Now, if it's for buyers and other stuff, absolutely not. I would refer it. But generally speaking, sure, you want to focus more 20, 30, 40 minute radius. You can go an hour, but to me, it's I've pre-qualified and I'm going there and I'm taking the listing. It's not this, well, maybe I'll get it type of thing, you know? That's just kind of my take on it. Once you get bigger, right? Maybe you grow a team or you really become productive, then you can become a little bit pickier or have more team members that can go on those appointments for you. But generally speaking, you want to stay within a reasonable area, especially if you live in an area that has a lot of traffic or, that appointment total is going to be 3 or 4 hours compared to if you do something locally, right? It's not going to be as long.
Yeah, and I'm going to contribute to this. And someone had a question, I think, about my contact 8 to 11, Muhammad, 8 to 11 contact an hour. That's mostly just calling circle prospecting or calling expireds. But I'm gonna say this. You should have standards for your business. Do not just take any client. I mean, an hour away aside. I mean, for a listing, I would probably. you know, uh, especially if financially it was worth it because, like Bryan said, you're not going to have to go out there a whole lot. And even if you get an unrepresented buyer, man, show Ami or find another agent. You could refer them out and get 30% for a referral fee, regardless of whether or not they buy your house. If they can develop that relationship, they can do it. But yeah, for a listing, absolutely, I probably would if it's an area I am okay with working. Uh, since I'm in Houston, it's a huge market, and I call expireds, for example. But because I have standards for my business, I don't call the 50 to 60 expireds that we have every day. I actually pared it down to locations, the 8 nearest cities, because Houston's not just Houston, but I pared it down to the nearest 8 cities that are like 30, 45 minutes max, a one-way drive that are reasonable for me to be able to do. Because before I was chasing all over and I'd be stuck in traffic for 2 hours when I have another appointment that's an hour away. So it got impractical. So I adjusted my system and process to only focus on a certain area or certain 8 areas. And so I focus there. Now, if I have someone who comes out of the blue, and I did this, where it's an area far away, then I can take the listing, and I may do that. I have learned my lesson with, I did a lease for someone. It was a special circumstance because it was a referral. But it was like an hour and a half one way every time I went out there. And I showed them so many houses over the years. This happened multiple times with 3 different properties they leased out because she was in a wheelchair and they had a hard time finding something that would fit. But I went 3 times and literally all 3 times combined, my total was 250 bucks that I made, period. I mean, nothing. I was basically paying to find these people a job. And that's because I made an exception of my standards that I don't do very often anymore. But you got to hold your business to standards. I don't think doing buyers that far away is practical, but you might be able to do a listing that far. I rambled on that, but sorry. Anyways,
No, it's
I
good.
agree with
Totally.
Bryan.
Yeah.
That was my long way of saying I agree with Bryan completely.
Cool, man. Well, I don't see any other questions.